So time to take a look through the morning papers, and here with me to go through them today is the author and broadcaster Emma Wolfe. So welcome back to you, Emma. Going solo today, unusually, but we will be with you in just a moment. But I first want to just take you through the front pages of the morning papers before we go inside. And Lion hearts broken. That's how the Sunday Mirror describes England's World Cup quarter-final defeat to France. Harry's pain, that's the Sun's verdict on the England captain's feelings after missing that crucial penalty. And here's the Sunday Times take on it, all over for England again. Star uses a French expletive in its post-match analysis. And to the people, the England team are Qatar heroes. The Observer understands that the Royal College of Nursing and the Unison Union have offered to suspend their forthcoming strikes if the government agrees to substantive negotiations over pay. Meanwhile, speaking to the Sunday Telegraph, the Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting describes health unions as hostile and says the NHS must reform or die. The Sunday Express has been speaking to former Labour Home Secretary David Blunkett, who says that the Christmas strike wave could cost the country £4 billion and lose Labour the next election. So plenty around this morning, Emma, a number of different stories on the front pages, but also inside. But first of all, we're going to go to the front of the Sunday Times, aren't we? And they've got a story here about Strep A, which is obviously causing a lot of concern to parents around the country. Their headline is, Desperate Parents Search for Strep A Medicine as Prices Soar.
Yeah, this is the bacterial infection. There's been an outbreak in recent weeks, and a lot of concern amongst parents parents desperate to be seen by their GP and to potentially get hold of antibiotics. Now, there's a suggestion today that pharmacies are bearing the cost of inflated prices for very basic antibiotics such as amoxicillin and penicillin, which should cost the pharmacies regularly a couple of pounds. And yet the prices by drug wholesalers seem to have been inflated by up to four times the regular cost. And all of that is not being reimbursed by the government. The government is saying there's no shortage of drugs, and yet pharmacies are running very low on stocks. Some have no stocks of these basic drugs whatsoever. And this outbreak of Strep A has already cost 16 lives of children with fatal sepsis over the last few weeks. And for anyone with a young child who's obviously, looking at various symptoms that may or may not just be, regular illnesses, there's real concern and real worry, because if you don't get in there quickly enough with antibiotics, it can turn fatal quite quickly.
Well, yes, the Department of Health, I think, has said that it's normal for prices to fluctuate based on demand, haven't they? And they,
4 times.
And as you say, they also are saying that there isn't a shortage, a national shortage, certainly, in terms of antibiotics. But the question is, I guess, whether there are some areas that are running short. Should we move on to the next story that you've picked out, Emma? And this is on strikes again. This featuring on the front pages once again, not for the first time. You've focusing now on an article in the Sunday Express, which talks about the cost of the strikes, the impact that they could have.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got the hospitality sector, which is absolutely, this is its key time of year. People not being able to go to cafes, bars, but not being able to go to work, not being able to travel. Cafes, restaurants, hotels are really going to be hit. It's costing a sort of post-pandemic hospitality sector that's already on its knees from the couple of years of lockdown. It's costing them around £300 million a day in terms of these festive strikes. It's estimated to be around £2 or $3 billion a year. And on the front of the Express, you've got the Christmas strikes costing around $4 billion. Union chiefs have been warned that this could actually cost Labour the next election. They could be hit very, very hard. Senior Labour Party figures fear that these mass walkouts could result in Labour being hammered at the ballot box. And then the former Health Secretary, David Blunkett, has come out quite strong terms. He's saying that to target the public at Christmas is mean and spiteful. And he's been comparing this current wave. I mean, we have a wave of industrial action. We have not only the health service, nurses and ambulances, but we also have rail, road, postal sectors, even the Met Office threatening action. So, David Blunkett is saying that this is similar to the winter of discontent of 1978 to 1979.
And interesting if he thinks that Labour might end up paying the price for that, and a lot of people deciding whose side they're on in these strikes, aren't there? There's a lot of public sympathy for strikers if people themselves are suffering from inflation, their wages not rising with inflation. Other people blaming the government. There's lots of blame around, isn't there? Interesting where it'll land ultimately.
Absolutely. I think the public are very sympathetic to, the soaring cost of living and wages not keeping up with inflation, but also are going to be horribly hit by this, horribly affected when they're trying to travel, when they're trying to get, urgent medical treatment or whatever, maybe trying to go back and see family over Christmas and not themselves getting anything like 10%, 19%, anything like that. So, yes, I think public opinion is very sympathetic to public sector workers, but also frustrated at this time, and the government seems to be doing not that much. So we'll see how
as you say, to see if that public opinion shifts at all when there is disruption or more disruption. Let's move on to the cold weather, shall we? Inside the Mail on Sunday. Again, we've talked about the strikes and the disruption that's causing. Now the weather may well cause disruption too, and at a time, of course, when it's expensive to put our heating on.
Exactly, yeah. Cost of living or cost of heating is soaring. Normally I love a weather story, Anna, but I think this one is just more grim news. It's really going to get very, very cold. It's unbelievably frosty here. So we're going to brace ourselves for 15 days of snow. It could be as cold as the North Pole in the run-up to Christmas. And we could be seeing lows of -12 by night. All the airports have got their snow ploughs on standby. Gatwick, Heathrow, Southend are all prepared for very, very icy conditions. So it looks like it looks like pretty certain that we will have a white Christmas.
Well, who knows? Place your bets now. Emma, I'm going to just show everyone the headline in the Sunday Express, England's Night to Baguette. I don't know if that's the best headline around on the football.
There's so many headlines on this one, aren't there?
There are an awful lot of them. Sadly, not enough time to talk about it. But Emma, we really appreciate your time today going through the papers. Thanks very much indeed. All the top stories coming up next.